Hakadosh Boker Tov. We're continuing with the halachot of refuah on Shabbat. Yesterday we were speaking about the concept of smearing, whether it's going to be an ointment or any other type of antibacterial medicine or anything that you would put on top of a makkah. Now we're going to be speaking about a little bit more about the actual bandages or plasters or different things that you're going to put on top of it. So he says in halacha over here, mutar lachlosh v'tachlosh et petza uchetach v'em bazeh mishum refuah kevan she'eno ela k'mishamrem mipnei zihum. So he says that to actually put on, whether it's going to be any type of these bandages, right, plasters, any other thing which is going to be on top of it, for sure is going to be permitted because it's not considered refuah. What is a refuah? You're healing something. Here you're not actually healing it, you're just watching it that it's not going to become infected. That is the purpose of a bandage. So therefore you're allowed to put any type of bandage or plaster on top of this which is going to protect it. Now after you put it on, you're even allowed to tie it with a kesher on aniva. Some of them you have to actually come and make a knot on it, but he says obviously you would make a knot which is going to be a kesher aniva, which is like a bow tie, which basically with one hand you could come and you could undo the knot. And then he says that some people are even matir to do a kesher al-kesher, but that's already in the chok shida that I don't want to get into over here. The next one is actually using the bandage that it has the sticky parts. So therefore he comes and he says, right, you're allowed to use a plaster on Shabbat. Remember that they use the word plaster because it's in England and that's in Hebrew as well, that they use plaster instead of bandages. So you're allowed to use a bandage on Shabbat, which means you're allowed to go take one of these bandages, you're allowed to come and open them up and take off the sticky parts and actually put it on your skin. He says there's no problem of hasiyata niyara davuk miplas mishum afradat advaka. He says there's no problem actually taking off something, right, that's sticking on. V'chelo b'adbakata plaster mishum tfidah, or putting on. Why? The end tfidah lezman, because there's no tfidah for a certain amount of time, which means this is not going to be there forever. This is going to be there for a very small amount of time, whatever it actually lasts, that you're able to keep it on the skin. And therefore, since there's no tfidah lezman, you're allowed to use plasters. This he's actually bringing down also from the Chazon Ovadia and also from Rabbi Tzion Bar Shaul and the Shutor Letzion. Now, what about putting it back to its place? Which means you had a bandage, right, and it was already soaked with, for example, different type of a cream or ointment, and now you're going to come and you want to put it back. It fell off. So now he comes and he says the following. It all depends. He says, Im nafla tachboshet al gabei karka. If it came and it fell on top of the floor, asur lachzira limkoma. You're not allowed to put it back to its place. Why? Because then I'm going to suspect that if you're going to put it back, you're going to smear, right, whatever is on the bandage, and therefore he comes and he says you're going to be over on the Yisur of Memareach. Remember, we already said that if it's going to be a cream, and you're going to come and you're going to start smearing it on the body, that's an Yisur of Memareach. So he comes and he says there's going to be an Yisur of Memareach if it went and it fell on the floor. However, though, he comes and he says, if it fell on top of a keli, for example, on top of the table, on top of a chair, you're allowed to put it back. Because as long as it did not fall on top of the floor, we actually done that it's ki'ilu, it's still in the body, and therefore we didn't make a gizerah. Maybe you're going to come and you're going to smear it, which means again, this is all a gizerah. It's not that for sure you're smearing. Because to smear for sure is going to be a sur, other than what we spoke about yesterday. When you're going to smear, it's going to be completely absorbed in the body, which that they learned from the halachot of the shemen, that if it's going to be completely absorbed in the body, and it's not going to be like a little thin residue on top, so therefore as long as it's going to be completely absorbed in the body, it would be mutar. So he comes and he says here, they did not make the gizerah if it fell on top of a utensil and it didn't fall completely on the floor. Now he comes and he says, but this is when you actually, it fell on its own. But if you took it off b'mitkaven, meaning b'chavana, you came and you took off this bandage, now you're not allowed to put it back. And some people argue and they say, no, that you could put it back, and yesh lismoch al divrehem, keshisira min al-letaken, if you took it off in order to actually fix something that you need to fix, for sure you would be able to come and put it back on. Bezat Hashem, tomorrow we'll continue with whether it's taking out thorns or pricks from the body or other types of burns or things like that also. Bezat Hashem tomorrow.